You and your friends exit a club and step onto the darkened city street. Everyone is in a happy and joyful mood. It's been a great night, one that you'll be reminiscing about with your friends for years. As you walk and laugh together, you don't notice the large man standing in front of you and almost run straight into him. You offer a quick apology and move to go around the man, but he steps in front of you, blocking your path. All of your friends grow quiet, and you finally take a good look at the man. The man towers over you. He is huge, with giant, elaborate tattoos wrapped around his bulging muscles that it looks like he may have gotten to cover up the numerous white patches of skin that are missing pigmentation. His face, though, is bright red and filled with rage. The man begins screaming at you, asking why you ran into him and calling you horrible names. Again, you try to apologize, but the man just keeps yelling as if he can't even hear you. He pushes you hard in the chest, and you fall back into one of your friends. Another steps forward in an attempt to defuse the situation, but the man punches him in the face, breaking his jaw. A melee ensues, though it could more accurately be described as a massacre. The man has gone ballistic and punches, kicks, and bites your entire group of friends. His strength seems unreal, even for someone as big and muscular as him. A large bouncer runs over in an attempt to break up the fight, but even he is no match for this tattooed giant. You've been on the ground since he shoved you, watching this insanity play out, but now, with everyone else lying on the ground bloodied and bruised, he turns his attention back on you. You try to scramble back to your feet, but he's upon you in an instant. He picks you up over his head and tosses you into some trash cans, knocking you unconscious. You open your eyes to see the man standing over you. You can feel the blood from numerous cuts on your face running down into your eyes and mouth. The man picks you up with one hand and holds you by the throat against the wall. He's still in a rage, breathing hard through clenched teeth, bits of white foaming in the corners of his mouth as he brings up his other hand and curls his fingers into a fist. All you can think is this it? But then you notice something. The tattoo that snakes down the man's arm all the way to his hand is moving. The long serpentine dragon is writhing and slithering as if it's alive. Is this really happening, or just a result of the concussive trauma you've received? There's no time to consider it further, though, as the man pulls back and throws a punch right into your face. You can feel your nose flatten and break from the impact, which understandably distracts you from the bizarre occurrence that follows. Right as the man's bloodied fist makes contact with your face, the dragon on his arm seems to swim off of his skin and onto yours. Like a snake moving through water, it glides off his fist onto your face before sliding down your neck onto your body. There is a searing pain as it moves, like you're being poked with needles over and over. You scream from the pain, blood from your broken nose pouring out of your mouth. The man drops you to the ground and steps back. He no longer looks to be in a rage, and instead looks confused. He looks down at his skin to find that the tattoo is completely gone. A look of unbridled joy comes over his face, and he turns and runs away into the night, laughing with glee as he does so. You are left whimpering in pain, curled up in a ball in the pile of trash where he left you, the dragon tattoo now covering your entire body. As you have probably already guessed, this is no normal tattoo. No, this is an anomalous creature that is known to the SCP Foundation as SCP-021, but it also has another name: the skin worm. SCP-021 is an obligate parasite that uses the human body as a host. Its visual appearance is in the form of a large, elaborate tattoo of an Oriental-style dragon, which covers roughly 1 square meter of its host's skin. What makes this tattoo truly unique is that it is fully animated and moves on the host's body just as a real animal would, though in 2D like a cartoon playing out in real time on their skin. The movement of the tattoo causes horrendous pain for the host, and has been described as feeling like thousands of tiny needles are stabbing at them all at once, as if a fresh image is being constantly tattooed on their skin, while at the same time, a tattoo removal process is happening. While the tattoo organism is able to move, it seems to prefer spending most of its time on its host's torso, though it has been seen to move around to other parts of the body on occasion. As SCP-021 moves around on the surface of its host's body, it appears to feed on the pigments in the skin. Its favored meal seems to be other tattoos, which it will seek out and devour, though if none are present, or if it has eaten all of the tattoos on its host, it will begin consuming the melanin from the skin instead. Melanin is a naturally occurring pigment found in human skin, and after SCP-021 sucks it from its host, it will leave them with permanent skin damage and patches of unpigmented skin that appear similar to that of the skin condition vitiligo. The feeding itself does not appear to cause the host any pain, and the pigments, whether they are from another tattoo or the natural ones in the skin, will simply disappear as 021 eats them. The pace at which SCP-021 feeds will vary, but it has been observed as being able to clear over half a square meter of skin in roughly 1 hour. One way to prevent SCP-021 from eating all of the melanin present on a human is to quickly add new tattoos of fruits or small animals as a way to continually distract it from turning to the melanin. Thus far, outside of motion, the organism has displayed no elevated intelligence or the ability to communicate. It simply moves and feeds. SCP-021 is not permanently affixed to the skin of any one host, and in fact, can be transferred back and forth between hosts multiple times. The only way to transfer the organism is through physical contact, though skin-to-skin contact does not guarantee that the organism will take to a new host. In the event that it does, the dragon tattoo appears to swim across the touching skin and will affix itself to the new human host. Skin-to-skin contact in the romantic sense has been shown to be the most reliable method of transfer from one host to another, with a 93% rate of successful transmission. However, as you can imagine, the tattooing sensation that comes along with any movement of SCP-021 means that this particular transfer is extremely painful for all parties involved, and the Foundation has deemed that despite its high success rate, it should only be used when absolutely necessary. Contact between two open wounds has been shown to be an only slightly less effective method, and has become the default means of transferring when the SCP Foundation wants to move SCP-021 from one host to another. Transferring the organism from a deceased host to a living one is possible, though more complicated. SCP-021 appears not to mind when its host organism is no longer alive, continuing to feed on whatever pigments are available to it, and does not seem to suffer any ill effect from the condition of its host. It is as yet unknown whether SCP-021 could be transferred to another species. So far, the organism has only been willing to move from human to human, though research into the question is ongoing. It's theorized that if SCP-021 is able to exist on a non-human animal, it would only occur in the rarest of circumstances. Unlike most parasites, SCP-021 does offer some small but tangible benefits to its host human. In addition to hosts of the organism appearing to have an improved immune system, research has also shown that the presence of 021 will increase its host's release and reuptake of epinephrine, better known as adrenaline. It will also decrease the buildup of lactic acid, which is what builds up in the muscles during activity and causes burning sensations and soreness. Combined, these benefits from SCP-021 provide its host with increased strength and confidence, as well as give a heightened pain tolerance during stressful situations. Not surprisingly, the host of SCP-021 also displays a high level of aggression, though whether this comes from their elevated hormone levels or simply because the organism causes them to be in constant pain is still an unanswered question. The amount of time that this symbiotic relationship can be sustained is typically limited to how long the host can tolerate the unceasing pain of the tattoo moving about their body. The persistent agony that a host of SCP-021 endures has led to multiple hosts having taken their own lives, and in a few rare cases, they have also succumbed to fatal skin infections, though these were likely the result of open wounds caused by the hosts scratching at their own skin, rather than anything directly attributable to the organism. SCP-021 is currently contained on the body of a D-Class personnel, D-139, who is housed in Standard Detention Cell 217A, and the relative ease with which it can be kept on a human subject's body has led to it receiving the safe classification. Only D-Class personnel are eligible to be a host to SCP-021, and current operating procedure is to allow the organism to live on the same host's body until they expire. The exact nature of what SCP-021 is, as well as its origins, remain a mystery to the Foundation. Attempts have been made to trace the path of its transmission from before its time in containment, and it is hypothesized that the organism could be many hundreds of years old, if not older. As evidenced by its low SCP number, 021 is one of the oldest SCPs that the Foundation keeps contained, and it has proven to be a very useful educational tool for new and upcoming researchers as they study this bizarre creature and its existence that occurs entirely within 2 dimensions.
Having a normal conversation with someone threatening to do something awful just never stops being surreal. But this case today was weirder than any. The negotiator tightens the straps on his flak vest, taking a few short, sharp breaths. He's done this a dozen times before. He knows the protocols and reads the briefs, but nothing ever quite prepares him for stepping into the room with someone, looking them in their desperate eyes, and talking. Following the lead of the 3 SWATs, the negotiator is quickly escorted into the building. Emergency lights tint the hospital's empty corridors that should be bustling with nurses and patients. Instead, it's empty. There's just the squeak of heavy combat boots against the mopped floor. Doctors, they're the ones you expect to keep a level head, be calm, objective, sensible, sane, and unwilling to cause anyone harm. The remainder of the SWAT team are stacked against the double doors to the oncology ward, fingers trembling around the grips of their assault rifles. Beads of sweat trickle past their eyes. After calling out to the man inside, warning him that someone is about to step into the ward and doesn't mean any harm, the negotiator is let through the doors, and he comes face to face with the frantic surgeon inside. The light from his vest highlights the terror in his eyes, making the sweat on his face glint red. It looks homemade, but the crude wiring and makeshift explosives are still a danger. The negotiator takes another deep breath. Now for the weird part. He introduces himself like he would to a new neighbor or one of his son's teachers. Pleasant, friendly, ensuring that the surgeon knows there's nothing to worry about. Holding up the detonator in his trembling, twitching hand, the surgeon urges the negotiator not to take another step closer. He swears through a shaky voice that it's for his own good. Any closer, and he'll be in grave danger. Holding his hands out like he's trying to tame a wild animal, the negotiator makes a point of stopping, complying with the request, staying put. He tells the surgeon that he just wants to talk, to understand why he's putting himself in danger. And all the patients on this ward, those that aren't too frail to move, are still cowering in their beds. The surgeon tries, through frantic, fragmented, sometimes even nonsensical statements, to explain himself. Sarcoma, cancer, all of them have it, but they aren't just sick, they are infectious, and nobody else in the hospital has noticed. The surgeon insists he never wanted to hurt anyone, but that this is the only way to stop things from getting worse. The negotiator tries to get the surgeon to slow down, tells him that he's just a hostage negotiator, not a medical expert, but even he's sure that cancer isn't infectious. While he listens to the surgeon explaining, babbling about discovering something he couldn't believe, the negotiator inches closer, a tiny fraction of a step each time the surgeon's eyes dart away to one of the patients. Getting more and more incensed, the surgeon hurls x-rays and medical charts towards the negotiator, insisting it's all there. It's not just cancer these patients have. There's something alive in them. The negotiator glances down at the scattered documents, unable to comprehend much of what he's looking at. He's seen scans of a tumor before, back before his old man went into hospice care, but as far as his untrained eye can tell, there's not much difference here. Maybe a few tiny flecks, some that look like swirls, optical illusions in the center of some of these tumor images. A few look like tentacles? Looking around the room, none of the patients look like much of a threat. A lot of them are frail, some seem like they're clinging on and still fighting, while a few aren't even conscious. Trying to reassert control over the situation, the negotiator reminds the surgeon of the Hippocratic Oath. He's sworn to not harm another human being. It's time, the negotiator insists, inching ever closer, to take off the vest and come quietly. But the things inside these people aren't human beings, the surgeon insists, as his hand presses the detonator. In the wake of a reported incident at the redacted General Hospital, agents of the SCP Foundation embedded within local law enforcement were able to recover medical records of several patients that were caught in the blast. Those who survived were examined closely by personnel, and through extensive research, the Foundation discovered evidence of a previously undocumented outbreak, a condition now referred to under the official designation of SCP-164. SCP-164 is a specific strain of cancerous cells that undergo an unusual process while developing inside the body of an affected host. Gathering up cadavers from the incident that had been afflicted with SCP-164, Foundation researchers were able to perform several detailed post-mortem examinations of those who had contracted the condition. Many of the bodies displayed little to differentiate them from cadavers of late-stage cancer patients, with the presence of tumors discovered throughout their internal systems. Some of these growths were atypical in their size or shape, though most were assumed by Foundation doctors to be non-anomalous in nature. Their assumption was wrong. An examination was conducted on the body of one particular victim, believed to have been one of the earliest victims to have contracted SCP-164. Upon completing the primary incision into the cadaver, a Foundation lab technician assisting with the procedure panicked. They insisted they could see something moving inside the body. Researchers paused, taking a closer look at the cadaver, anticipating that something might happen at any second. Yet it lay still, cold, unmoving, and undoubtedly dead. Dismissing that what the lab assistant had seen was little more than a trick of the light, the researchers assigned to carry out the procedure continued, dissecting the human remains. Just as the research team began to extract damaged organ tissue and tumor matter, something burst from the viscera that one of the Foundation morticians had in their hands. There was something alive in there, writhing and wriggling, appendages flailing and flicking droplets of blood over the startled researchers' scrubs. Almost immediately, terrified at the sudden movement, they let go of the organs in their hands, which hit the ground with a loud splatter, sending more streaks of blood over the floor. In a flash of speed, whatever the anomaly was that had been living among the cadaver's organs scurried out of sight under some metal drawers before anyone had been able to take a clear look at it. Immediately, a klaxon sounded from beyond the examination room. Beyond the thick, one-way glass looking in on the procedure, someone had hit an emergency alarm. An announcement blared over the facility's intercom system that a mandatory quarantine was in effect. An unknown organism was loose inside the room where the postmortems were being conducted, and the doors had been sealed, trapping the research team inside with their anomalous visitor. In an instant, the lab technician had heaved the lifeless body from the examination table, letting it land on the ground with a heavy thump. The assistant who spotted signs of movement was in hysterics, standing on the examination table, pointing and hurling obscenities at the drawers the creature was hiding beneath. Two of the post-mortem team started shouting at a third, the one whose hands the anomaly had been in, desperately demanding to be told what exactly the thing was. The researcher who had held it for only a few seconds stared at their blood-soaked surgical gloves, insistently repeating that they had no idea what it was they'd been holding. Then, suddenly, the sound of movement came from under the drawers. Whatever it was still alive. The lead researcher flung open the door of a storage locker in the corner of the morgue, throwing a cluttered collection of objects out until he found a mop. Detaching the long handle, he instructed the other members of the post-mortem team to get behind him, while handing one of them an empty bucket. He told them to bring the bucket down on the creature the moment that he was able to push it out from under the drawers. Getting into position, the lead researcher knelt down and began prodding the mop handle under the drawers. He couldn't see much under there, little stood out thanks to the lack of the room's sterile white light that far down. Though as he carefully glided the mop handle along underneath, the researcher was sure he felt something shift against it. Using the end in his hands, he nudged it again and felt it recoiling. Turning to the other researcher, who stood with the empty, upturned bucket in their gloved hands, the team's leader gave a quiet nod, indicating it was time to get ready. He made a sudden, sharp swipe with the mop handle, expecting the creature to retreat from it and scurry across the mortuary floor in search of a new place to hide. Instead, it seemed to be staying put, right until the lead researcher pulled the handle back, preparing to take another strike. As the other end of the mop handle appeared again from underneath the drawers, the lab assistant, still standing on the examination table, let out another yell. A collection of long, dexterous tentacles had wound their way around the handle, gripping it tightly as the lead researcher withdrew their makeshift weapon. Clinging to the end of it was some kind of squid. Reacting in surprise the moment they realized the creature was holding onto the handle, the lead researcher instinctively swung it around in a startled reflex. This sent the anomaly flying across the examination room, right towards the lab technician on the table. When a Foundation hazardous containment team opened up the doors of the examination room, they found the researchers frantically trying to pry the squid creature from the face of the frightened lab technician. Since their time in quarantine and passing their screening for anomalous infections, the assistant has been offered consultations with the Foundation-approved counselor. Behaviorally, they appear mostly unaffected by the incident, apart from one occasion where they experienced a significant panicked reaction to the serving of calamari in the site cafeteria. Upon closer study of the now neutralized creature, the Foundation has determined SCP-164 carries cellular information that is largely derived from human DNA. However, the cells that cause an infection appear to effectively exist as a single-celled parasitic organism that is able to reproduce asexually. It's been further documented through testing that SCP-164 can cause large tumors to exposed hosts, resembling those that often occur in many cancers that affect the soft tissue or bones, known as sarcoma. What sets SCP-164 apart is its more unique symptoms. Foundation researchers have learned that SCP-164 is the only parasitic form of cancer that can potentially infect human beings, and being caused by parasites means that it is also one of the only transmittable forms of cancer. It's been discovered, through testing on multiple subjects, that just how SCP-164 passes on is more or less effectively dependent on how it's introduced to an uninfected potential host. Airborne contact can pass the condition from person to person, though not always. Direct skin-to-skin or even intimate contact with an infectee is more likely, though not guaranteed, to result in SCP-164 transmission. However, SCP-164 is at its most infectious within the blood of its host. Transmission of the blood of an infectee will result in the spread of the condition, one that some researchers have taken to calling SQUID tumors. By the estimates of Foundation anomalous infectious disease experts and others with backgrounds in anomalous parasitology, roughly 75% of SCP-164 infections are unlikely to produce any abnormal side effects. The condition, like many more benign cancers, can be effectively treated through the use of chemotherapy. Should tumors develop, the vast majority of affected patients can have these removed surgically without any likelihood of the cancer returning. This applies to nearly all stages of SCP-164 too. Either chemotherapy or surgery remain effective treatments for triggering remission. However, not all cases of SCP-164 are the same. In roughly a quarter of infections, the tumors produced by the anomalous condition will no longer follow the typical behavior of non-anomalous cancerous sarcomas. Instead, those that grow larger than a certain size will begin to absorb bodily materials from their hosts. These materials are then used to create an entirely separate organism within the tumor itself, beginning with a zygote that then starts to replicate, much like during a pregnancy. But this isn't exactly a traditional fetus. This process can go unnoticed in its earliest stages, as it appears to mimic the normal production and spread of tumors through the body. If an infectee has developed several tumors thanks to SCP-164, multiple new organisms can start to develop in other tumors. But not all of them are always guaranteed to begin absorbing bodily material and incubating. Those that do, however, create what appear to correspond with a previously unknown species of Teuthidae, known more colloquially as SQUID. Once matured, these anomalous organisms appear to be completely unrelated to the tumors that they developed from. It is still possible to surgically extract these organisms completely intact, though the process poses a significant danger to the human host. While remaining within the tumors, these organisms, dubbed SCP-164-2, will continue to grow at a regular rate, though not moving much or shifting position unless the host is killed. Specimens that have been extracted successfully by Foundation surgeons have been placed in water and have proven to be able to survive in these conditions. Once placed in an aquatic environment, instances of SCP-164-2 will be able to move, catch and eat prey, perform basic defense, and reproduce. Given the often unnoticeable nature of how instances of SCP-164-2 develop and grow within a host, most cases of SCP-164 are misdiagnosed by civilian doctors. In some cases, detection of these squid-like organisms will not occur until biopsy, or if surgical procedures are performed on a host. Several tests have been conducted on D-Class subjects knowingly infected with SCP-164 by the Foundation. During examination, researchers have found that the SCP-164-2 organisms can often interact with human physiology in unexpected ways. During one test, a 23-year-old member of D-Class personnel contracted SCP-164 after being given a blood transfusion. Researchers were instructed to pump her with blood from a known SCP-164 victim. In this instance, the D-Class test subject developed tumors within the walls of her uterus, which her body seemed to recognize, reacting as if she was carrying a human fetus. After 9 months, the subject went into labor and was rushed to a Foundation facility for delivery. When Foundation doctors removed the living SCP-164-2 specimen, the D-Class subject was sedated in order to quell her terrified reaction. Amnestics were later applied to assist in wiping her memory of the traumatic incident. Her child was one of several SCP-164-2 instances placed in marine conditions for observation. To prevent any complications, the test subject was told, after receiving amnestic treatment, that she had been part of a confidential Foundation test for the prior 9 months, and she may experience some physical discomfort shortly after. When observing the effects of SCP-164 on a 30-year-old male D-class subject, Foundation doctors noticed that the anomalous affliction was causing tumors to spread along his spinal cord. This had the dangerous side effect of disrupting his central nervous system, as the tumors and the organisms inside began to grow and spread. The subject was placed under close observation, as were the specimens growing inside his back. It was quickly noticed by researchers that whenever one of the SCP-164-2 instances would move, it would trigger an uncontrollable reflexive flailing of the D-class test subject's limbs. Experts in anomalous parasitology began to theorize that the nervous system of the subject and the organisms had become interlinked as more tumors developed. A biopsy was performed, and the activity observed in the cellular sample seemed to strongly support this theory. The Foundation is yet to consider hybridization experiments, pending a review of the proposal by the Ethics Committee. Though not the only other Foundation experiments involving SCP-164, there is a third notable test. Once again, another member of D-Class was selected from a pool of candidates, based on their medical history. The chosen subject was a 25-year-old male inmate. This time, Foundation researchers were able to introduce SCP-164 cells into the subject's internal system orally, thanks to a cheek swab taken from an earlier test subject. This was then stirred into a glass of water, which would be placed in front of the test subject. Without informing them that the contents had been tampered with and potentially contaminated, the D-Class subject was ordered to drink. When symptoms associated with SCP-164 began to manifest, the test subject was placed under immediate observation. A full-scale examination of their condition revealed that, in their case, tumors had started to form near their esophagus and windpipe. Foundation researchers have long speculated that the exact point within the body where SCP-164 cells make contact is likely to be the same spot where the growths begin to form. However, this isolated case has not yet been substantial enough to confirm this theory. Attempts have been made to predict and plot where in the body of an infectee SCP-164 tumors will start to develop. However, thus far, it appears to be random. Where the tumors formed in this subject was particularly of note during this experiment, not because they had made contact with SCP-164 orally and developed tumors near the same area of the body, but more because of the nature of the tumors themselves. Although presenting no observable differences with other cases of SCP-164 infections, the positioning of this subject's tumors should have caused substantial health problems. Namely, under normal circumstances, given the size of the tumors lining the esophagus and windpipe, the subject would have been rendered unable to breathe. Closer examination revealed that their air passages had been almost entirely blocked off by tumorous mass. All observable evidence suggested that this case of SCP-164 was likely to be fatal. And yet, the subject survived. Charting the growth of their tumors, it appeared that their growth shifted, even receding slightly, despite the subject receiving no form of treatment for the anomalous condition. Full-body scans showed the growths had moved to the back of the neck, preventing the D-Class test subject from dying, at least through lack of oxygen. A Foundation researcher assigned to research, Dr. Redacted, suggested that this may have been the direct cause of SCP-164. They put forward the hypothesis that the condition, or possibly the organisms themselves growing within the tumors, could take some form of deliberate action in order to increase the longevity of their hosts. At present, there have been no other notable examples of SCP-164 infectees having their physiology altered in such a way. Exactly why these SQUID organisms would need to protect their hosts, or how they evolved to spread and develop through a sarcoma-like cancer, are questions that continue to baffle Foundation researchers. Special containment procedures have been enacted to curb potential future outbreaks of SQUID tumors, and to continue to study the exact nature of the anomalous affliction. Several cultures of SCP-164 cells are kept secure by the Foundation under standard Class 3 biohazardous procedures. These require the active cultures to be stored in a refrigerated biocontainment unit at 10 degrees Celsius. The hope is that this will keep enough live samples of the anomalous cells available for testing while preventing them from potentially spreading to humans. SCP Foundation personnel are reminded to approach with care. Although SCP-164 is not highly infectious, it is still pathogenic and can be both caught and transmitted among human beings. Researchers assigned to study the raw cultures of the anomalous cellular matter are to practice caution. The Foundation reminds all members of staff that the use of sterile latex gloves and face masks are generally effective when it comes to preventing the spread of any diseases, and this includes anomalous afflictions like SQUID tumors. Should any members of Foundation personnel accidentally make contact with SCP-164 material and inadvertently contract the condition, they will be made to submit for a mandatory 6-month treatment of chemotherapy, beginning immediately after first exhibiting symptoms. Surgery will be provided on a case-by-case basis following an assessment by Foundation-approved anomalous oncology experts. Any outbreaks of SCP-164 that are discovered among the public are to be dealt with in accordance with Foundation procedure. Cover up evidence of civilian infections, and remand contagious materials to Site Redacted for examination and testing.
SCP-1363 presents a unique challenge to our understanding of biological hazards. It's a highly contagious RNA virus, targeting human epithelial tissue with unsettling precision. Initial exposure leads to the prodromal stage, where the infected report a metallic taste and persistent headaches. Within days, unsettling lesions resembling scrape marks appear on their skin, though these are mysteriously painless. It's during the chronic stage, however, that SCP-1363 reveals its truly bizarre nature. The lesions evolve, forming coherent words and sentences, apparently communicated by 2 distinct entities within the virus itself. Named SCP-1363-1-A and SCP-1363-1-B, these entities engage in conversation, seemingly possessing awareness and knowledge from the mid-20th century, specifically around nuclear physics, a vestige of their origins at the Los Alamos National Laboratory. Their amicable demeanor belies the virus's lethal potential, leading to severe systemic effects and, in some cases, death. This is why containment is critical. SCP-1363 not only infects bodies, but weaves itself into the fabric of histories, leaving despair in its wake. Understanding SCP-1363 is not just a matter of science, it's a race against history itself. In 1946, a small town draped in the gentle hues of morning, as a young girl with lively eyes and a skip in her step made her way to school. The path wound through quiet country roads, lined with the remnants of autumn's touch. As the young girl approached a narrow bend, she noticed a man ahead, staggering and mumbling to himself. His arms were covered in strange marks that seemed to shift and move. Curious but cautious, the girl slowed her pace, her gaze fixed on the odd sight. The man, lost in his own world of discomfort, suddenly stumbled toward her. Reflexively, the girl put up her hand to shield herself, brushing against one of the lesions on the man's arm. The contact was brief, but in that instant, her hand came away with a slick, unusual feeling.
"Sorry, miss,"
the man gasped, clutching his head as he shuffled away, leaving the girl to stare after him, puzzled and slightly scared. Once at school, she rubbed her tired eyes with the same hand, unwittingly transferring whatever had lingered from the man's lesion. Throughout the day, a headache began to nag at her, growing in intensity. By the time she returned home, the discomfort was unbearable. Her parents, noticing her distress at dinner, advised her to drink more water, thinking perhaps the day's play had left her dehydrated. "Drink up, sweetheart, it'll help," her mother said, pushing a glass of water toward her. The girl tried to comply, but the water did little to ease the pounding in her head. Later that evening, as she changed into her pajamas, her mother noticed small, scrape-like lesions forming on her arms. "What happened at school today? Did you fall?" her mother asked, concern knitting her brow. "No, Mommy," the girl whispered, her voice strained by the throbbing in her skull. "It just started hurting." Her parents exchanged worried glances, attributing the mysterious symptoms to a possible flu, and decided to monitor her overnight, hoping a good night's rest would bring improvement. The next morning, the young girl's struggle to concentrate in class became evident. Every whisper of a classmate, every scratch of a pencil on paper, amplified her headache to unbearable levels. Her teacher, a kind woman with a keen eye, noticed her distress. "You look pale," the teacher said, guiding her to the hallway. "Let's visit the nurse." In the nurse's office, the girl sat quietly, the fluorescent lights above seeming to pulse with each throb of her headache. The nurse, a meticulous woman with years of experience, examined her carefully. She gently touched the lesions, her expression growing concerned. "How did you get these?" the nurse asked, her voice low. "I don't know," the girl murmured, her eyes downcast. The nurse's suspicion ticked up a notch. Something didn't feel right. She made a decision, her hand steady as she picked up the phone and dialed Child Social Services.
I think you need to see this,
she said, glancing back at the girl with a mix of worry and determination. Later that day, a car pulled up to the family home. Social services, accompanied by a police officer, approached the front door. The girl's parents met them, confusion turning to horror as the reason for the visit was explained.
We need to ensure her safety,
the social worker explained, avoiding the parents' pleading eyes as they protested, tears streaming down their faces.
No, you don't understand. She's not abused,
her mother cried out, gripping the social worker's arm. Her father, equally distraught, tried to reason.
Please, she's just been ill. Let us take care of her.
But their pleas went unheard. The girl, wrapped in a coat too big for her, looked back at her parents from the back seat of a social service vehicle, her face streaked with tears, her small voice lost in the cold wind. At the foster home, the girl found herself among strangers. Her symptoms, now evolving into whispered conversations from the lesions, went unnoticed by her overwhelmed foster parents. They overheard her murmuring responses to unseen voices and assumed she had conjured an imaginary friend to cope with her upheaval.
Who are you talking to, dear?
One foster parent asked, peering into her room late one night.
My arm,
the little girl replied, staring at the shifting words on her arms, her voice a whisper of fear and fascination. The other foster children glanced at her with curiosity, but none understood the gravity of her conversations with the lesions, mistaking them for the whims of a troubled mind. One afternoon, an older foster child watched the girl whispering to her arms. His curiosity piqued, he approached her.
What are you playing?
He asked, eyeing the strange patterns on her skin.
It's not a game,
she murmured, but he was too fascinated to heed her tone.
Can I try?
He insisted, reaching out to touch the lesions before she could stop him. His fingers traced the words, and he laughed.
Cool, it's like magic.
But the laughter soon faded. Within days, the boy started complaining of headaches and a weird taste in his mouth. Not long after, similar lesions appeared on his skin, whispering secrets only he could hear. Meanwhile, the school nurse, who had been feeling increasingly unwell, noticed similar symptoms in herself. Remembering the girl and the lesions, she grew alarmed. With shaking hands, she dialed the CDC, her voice urgent as she described the symptoms and her fears.
Something's very wrong, she explained. It's like the disease is spreading through words.
Under the guise of public health officials, SCP Foundation agents arrived in the town, their presence calm yet authoritative. They moved with purpose, observing the behaviors and interactions of the townsfolk, especially those showing the mysterious symptoms of SCP-1363. The agents meticulously gathered data, blending in yet remaining apart, their notes becoming a catalog of the unfolding epidemic. It didn't take long for them to confirm the presence of an anomalous infectious agent. The designation SCP-1363 was quickly applied, and the real work began.
Initiate containment protocol,
one agent instructed, speaking into a concealed microphone. Teams of Foundation personnel, donned in biohazard suits, began the somber task of rounding up affected individuals. The girl, her symptoms now fully manifest, and the observant school nurse were among the first to be escorted to waiting, unmarked vans. Inside the containment facilities, the atmosphere was tense but controlled. Researchers and doctors worked in sterile rooms, their movements deliberate, covered from head to toe in protective gear. They examined each patient with precision, careful to avoid any contact that might spread the contagion to themselves. Back in the town, a subtle quarantine was enforced. The once lively streets grew quiet, the usual bustle replaced by the occasional sight of Foundation personnel and their unmarked vehicles. Residents peeked from behind curtains, their whispers filling the air with rumors and fear.
What's happening?
One townsperson asked another as they watched another neighbor being escorted away by suited figures.
I heard it's some new kind of flu,
the other replied, their voice low, tinged with uncertainty and fear. As the Foundation's presence became more noticeable, the reality of the situation began to sink in for the townsfolk. They were at the epicenter of something far beyond ordinary, a mysterious illness that could no longer be ignored. The town, now under the watchful eye of the Foundation, braced itself as the quiet quarantine tightened, a protective grip that held both safety and a whisper of something darker. At the containment center, the hum of scientific activity filled the air as researchers monitored the progression of SCP-1363 in its various stages. The atmosphere was tense,
each team member aware of the unusual and dangerous nature of their subject. In a secured observation room, a Foundation doctor prepared to interview the lesions on the girl's arms. The setup was unusual. A camera focused on the girl's limbs, a microphone poised to catch every whisper from the sentient marks.
Let's begin,
the doctor said, his voice steady despite the surreal task. He addressed the legions directly, pen in hand, ready to record their responses.
Can you understand me?
The lesions shifted, forming words that appeared on the girl's skin. Yes, they replied, the word slowly morphing on her arm.
How are you able to communicate?
The doctor continued, his fascination tempered with a clinical detachment necessary for his notes. Through her, the legions formed the reply, indicating their host. The doctor noted the response, then asked another question.
What do you want?
Exist, the legions spelled out, a simple yet chilling response that made the room's temperature feel a degree colder. As the interview proceeded, the researchers behind the observation glass took meticulous notes, their faces a mix of curiosity and concern. Each answer was analyzed. Theories whispered back and forth about the implications of this communicative ability. The girl, for her part, sat quietly, her expression one of resigned discomfort. She had grown used to the odd sensations of her own skin speaking, yet the fear of what it meant lingered in her eyes. The session continued, with the doctor gently probing for more information about the origins and desires of SCP-1363-1, the entities living within the virus. Each answer brought them closer to understanding, yet the truth of SCP-1363 remained elusive, shrouded in biological mystery. As the day wound down, the researchers compiled their findings, the data a mix of scientific breakthrough and haunting medical anomaly. The containment center buzzed with the energy of discovery and the somber acknowledgement of the path ahead. The girl was returned to her room, her arms still whispering secrets only the Foundation could now hear. As we've seen, SCP-1363 is not just a medical anomaly. It's a window into the complexity of infectious diseases and their potential interactions with human psychology. After the acute and chronic stages, the virus enters what we will call the convalescent stage. This is where the levels of SCP-1363 in the blood begin to decline, leading to a gradual resolution of symptoms. Most subjects recover fully within a month, but let's not underestimate the psychological scars left behind. The virus fades, but the impact lingers. Survivors often report episodes of anxiety, nightmares, and in some cases, continued hallucinations. It's a stark reminder of the virus's potency. Now, let's talk containment. SCP-1363 is currently contained at Bioresearch Site 101 under the highest biosecurity protocols. The containment unit is designed to prevent any possibility of outbreak, with multiple redundancies in place. Every precaution is taken to ensure that SCP-1363 does not leave the confines of its containment cell. This includes specialized air filtration systems, double-sealed doors, and regular health screenings for all personnel involved in its management. The outbreak of 1946 taught us valuable lessons in containment and crisis management. We've applied these lessons to enhance our protocols, ensuring the safety of the public and the integrity of our research. As we continue to study SCP-1363, our goal remains clear: understand, contain, and mitigate. The stakes are high, but so is our commitment to safeguarding humanity. This concludes our briefing. Remember, vigilance is key, unless you want your next rash spelling out your secrets.
July 18, 2014. The calm and peaceful tranquility of the day has just been disrupted by the squawk of a panicked report over the radio. Civilians in danger. Urgent assistance required. The park ranger hears the screams carried through the trees by the wind a second later, already hurtling his way toward the location given by his colleague. Something is very, very wrong. Usually nothing like this happens at Crater Lake National Park. His mind starts racing as fast as the Jeep he's driving, a brain entering survival mode, trying to predict every possible danger. A forest fire? It was still daylight. He'd have seen the smoke. An animal attack? Maybe. Bears could sometimes be seen roaming about on the fringes of the park, but they typically kept away from humans, especially the more people were around. And today, in the midst of July, there were plenty to ward off any strays. Every attempted prediction only raised the same question. Just what the hell was going on? Approaching the tree line, one of the other rangers waves down the car. She's armed. If the vagueness of the report hadn't been troubling enough, seeing another park ranger with a shotgun in her hands certainly was. They were in bear territory. It wasn't unheard of for one of them to occasionally need a gun to ward the bears off, but that was a rarity out at Crater Lake. Slamming the brakes and leaping out of the Jeep, the park ranger rushes towards his colleague as she takes cover behind a nearby tree. He immediately asks her what the situation is, but she urges him to be quiet. There's something out there with them, she tells him in a whisper, racking a live round into her shotgun. When the park ranger asks what, the other ranger shoots him a look. Her eyes say it all. She's terrified and confused. This isn't just a wild animal on a rampage or frightenedly defending its territory and cubs. She has no idea what it is. She can't even believe she's seen it, let alone start describing it. Twigs snap under the foot of something, causing the other ranger to raise her shotgun, leaning out from behind the tree in the direction of the noise. She scans the space a few feet beyond the barrel. Nothing. The park ranger takes a look for himself, not exactly eager to see what it is, but unable to fend off his own curiosity. He spots something, nothing more than a shape passing between the trees, almost mistaking it for a branch simply moving in the gentle breeze. He taps on the other ranger's shoulder and alerts her. Whatever it is, it's close, and it seems to be walking like a man. The other ranger looks. In a second, she raises her shotgun and fires. A blast of buckshot erupts from the barrel, causing a deafening, high-pitched ringing in the park ranger's ears. He doubles over, clutching his ears as the sound becomes physically painful, not realizing his colleague fumbling as she grabs a fresh cartridge, or the thing staggering towards them. That is, until he looks up, the moment his hearing returns. But before we go any further, I have a question for you. Does something feel wrong with you? Is something interfering with your happiness or preventing you from achieving your goals? Regardless if you have a clinical mental health issue like depression or anxiety, or if you're just a human who lives in this world who's going through a hard time, therapy can give you tools to approach your life in a very different way. And that's why I'm excited to tell you about today's sponsor, BetterHelp. BetterHelp's mission is to make therapy more affordable and more accessible, and this is an important mission because finding a therapist can be really hard, especially when you're limited to the options in your area. BetterHelp is a platform that makes finding a therapist easier because it's online, it's remote, and by filling out a few questions, BetterHelp can match you to a professional therapist in as little as a few days. It's easy to sign up and get matched with a therapist. There's a link in my description. It's betterhelp.com/DrBob. Clicking that link helps support this channel, but it also gets you 10% off your first month of BetterHelp, so you can connect with the therapist and see if it helps you. And because finding a therapist is a little like dating, if you don't really fit with that therapist, which is a common thing with therapy, you can easily switch to a new therapist at no additional cost, without stressing about insurance, who's in your network, or anything like that. So if you're struggling, consider online therapy with BetterHelp. Click the link in the description or visit betterhelp.com/DrBob. Thank you again, BetterHelp, for supporting this channel. Now back to the bizarre creature in the forest. It's like part of the forest has come to life and assumed the shape of a human being in order to attack them. Roots cover its body, sealing up the space where its eyes would be. Oregon-beaked moss coats its arms and hangs off it like it's been draped in a sheet of yellowy-green plants. The creature is horrible to look at, and yet it looks lost. It stumbles, arms outstretched like it's trying to blindly feel its way around, and the park ranger realizes it can't see. Another cartridge clicks into the shotgun tube, pulled back the chamber by the slide of the pump, and the other ranger raises the weapon, steadying her aim so as not to miss this time. Her sights line up, the mossy monstrosity sitting in the center, and her fingers squeezes on the trigger. An unexpected force from below pushes the barrel of the shotgun upwards, pointing it towards the treetops. Another ear-splitting blast rings out, sending nearby birds flying from their nests in panic. The park ranger keeps the weapon pointed up, despite his colleague's protests to let go of her gun, or the drops of blood dripping out and trailing down his neck from his own eardrums. He glances over his shoulder as, whatever it is, flees in terror. Startled by the shotgun blast, it runs away between the trees, knocking into some as it moves with uncertainty. Minutes later, a team of other rangers arrives, declaring that they're taking over the search effort for the creature that was found lurking around Crater Lake National Park. These rangers seem off. They look the part, in full uniforms and everything, but the park ranger can't place their faces. They somehow seem brand new, yet not one of them is fazed by the unusual situation. They seemed all the more interested in questioning all the hikers and families visiting the park who had seen the creature, as they were in actually finding it. It was almost as if they didn't want the word getting out. The park ranger decides he can't keep quiet any longer and raises a concern to the newcomers. He tells them that he doesn't think whatever is out there is some kind of monster. He thinks it's human. The new rangers thank him for his input, but insist that they'll take it from here. Little did he know, these weren't other park rangers. They were agents of the SCP Foundation. They have been embedded within the National Parks Rangers to contain SCP-3310, an anomalous log floating in Crater Lake, said to contain a powerful deity named Yao, who can cause dangerous weather to erupt unless the log is left to float freely. Then the call comes in from SCP Foundation Command, reports of an entity attacking civilians. Since they happen to be nearby, in the same park no less, a handful of agents are sent in to investigate and, if possible, contain the creature. Before too long, the civilian witnesses, even the real park rangers who had tried to kill the entity, have all been interviewed, administered with memory-wiping amnestics, and subsequently released, as if nothing out of the ordinary has even happened. Putting boots to the ground, the search for the unidentified creature doesn't last long. Within 2 hours, the agents have found what they're looking for. Only, it's not a creature. It's a person. His name is Zach Herman. They find him cowering under an alcove near the edge of the lake, his moss-covered skin providing a near-perfect camouflage for him to blend in with his woodland surroundings. The only thing that gives him away is the sound of his frightened sobs. The Foundation agents aren't under orders to neutralize him on sight. Instead, they humanely subdue Zach Herman and arrange to have him taken to a nearby Foundation outpost for examination. SCP-3462, an anomalous humanoid entity known to inhabit a rundown Blockbuster video rental store in the nearby town of Bend, Oregon, with the area having been sealed off and constantly patrolled by Foundation personnel. So that seems like the best place to take Zach and figure out exactly what happened to him. Upon closer examination at the Foundation outpost, it's discovered that Zach Herman has a number of unidentified roots growing through both his skin and internal organs. Given the danger to his life that this poses, he's rushed into an operating theater to undergo emergency surgery. 18 hours pass as the Foundation tries to save the man's life. At this time, the surgeons decide that it isn't wise or possible to remove all the roots at once, so instead, they focus on clearing the ones that had grown within and over his eyes, nostrils, ear canals, and throat. Another 7 hours of intensive surgery pass, and Zach Herman is still alive. He's not cured, but the roots covering much of his face have at least been cleared. After stabilizing, it's then that he's transferred to Site 56, where the Foundation intends to conduct further operations to remove the growths from his body, as well as ask Zach questions about what happened to him. They're still baffled as to what caused his anomalous mutation into a moss monster. Just where had these roots come from? And what exactly was SCP-7185? Researcher Charlie Canley is tasked with conducting interviews with the subject, Zach Herman, between his various procedures, and she wastes no time in unearthing his story. Oak Ridge, Oregon, 60 miles north of Crater Lake National Park, where Zach will eventually be found. That's where he describes the horrific mutation taking place. Given that the roots would grow over his eyes, his vision impaired, he has no idea where he's going until he eventually winds up in Crater Lake. Scared, alone, and changed beyond recognition. And as he describes it, he wasn't the only one. Shortly before his own mutation, Zach mentions witnessing the same happening to Kellen Herman, his husband. The couple, along with a group of several others, are in a small Oregon town reached by traveling to Hills Creek Lake, then following Hills Creek Road south until finding a road sign simply labeled Beard. The place has spent 70 years in ruins, abandoned, and left to be overtaken by the elements. Most of the roads leading into the area are blocked off thanks to a landslide, leaving the town completely void of all human life. Until Zach and his friends arrive in Beard. There are 6 of them in total, including Zach, his husband Kellen, then Azrael, Mark, Angel, and Caleb. Answering an ad on Craigslist, the group has come to Beard after being hired by a man named Sean to scavenge through the abandoned town, collecting anything that could potentially be of value.
Scrap metal and intact valuables, as long as they can be resold, are worth holding on to. While the group searches, Sean delivers food and supplies to them once per month. One thing that they hope for each time, but never seem to get, is something to drink in their downtime. So, on a whim, while exploring an abandoned factory they come across, Zach looks for an alternative source of beer for the group to enjoy. What he finds is an unusual blue machine. Pulling levers on it, he finds that it dispenses samples of a surprisingly green liquid. Of course, none of the group immediately drinks it. Not until Angel finds an old journal with entries dating back to the 1930s. It describes the owners of the factory giving the liquid to their workers and only ceasing the practice after the workers stopped getting drunk. Taking that to mean the liquid was safe to drink, the group decided to each take a swig of the green. Initially, none of them feel any change. It's actually rather anticlimactic, at least at first. Soon after, however, they start to feel energized, more alert, and awake for much longer without feeling the usually expected fatigue that would bring. It even helps them search through parts of the town quicker, something they're all grateful for. After a week, not one of them even feels the need to sleep. They were even healing from injuries faster, small cuts were sealing in minutes, bruises clearing entirely almost as quickly as they formed. After about a month, the negative side effects start. They start manifesting as small symptoms, the group experiencing various bodily aches that gradually become far, far worse. It affects each of them differently, too. Zach starts to experience a tightness in his chest, while Caleb develops a bad fever that leaves him barely able to function. Mark and Angel's hair starts falling out in thick clumps, too. Soon after, the same is happening to Caleb. His symptoms are the first to worsen. After his hair falls out, his skin starts to do the same. It keeps peeling away, turning red. Then, Sean arrives in Beard. According to the information given by Zach in his interviews with the Foundation, their employer would routinely drive to the town every 3 months in order to pick up anything valuable the group has recovered. All of them suffering from the ill effects of whatever the liquid they'd all drank was. Those of the group that still had the strength to stand rushed to meet Sean and beg him to get them help. Upon taking one look at them, he drives away, abandoning them. 4 days after Sean left them there, the sleepless group is startled by screaming in the night. It's Caleb, and he's on fire. Panicking, the others try to help, pouring water on him to douse the flames. It seems to work, but it's only a few minutes before the fire starts up again. They even try taking him to the creek that runs through the town, but submerging Caleb in the water only causes his skin to form massive blisters that painfully burst. Keeping him under didn't work either. He kept needing to come up for air, and breaking the surface, he started catching fire again the second he was above water. There was nothing they could do to save him. He just kept burning. Caleb is the first of the group to die. It's not clear when this occurred. Investigating the area, the Foundation recovers fragmented journal entries written by Azrael, in which the others all attribute Caleb's death to him having a weak immune system. But normally, diseases don't cause people to spontaneously catch fire. By the morning, he is almost completely burned, leaving only a charred corpse that the group buries by the factory. Following Caleb's death, Zach is forced to leave. The others blame him for Caleb's death, and he does as well. He intends to find some other way of getting help for the rest of the group. Kellen joins him, and the couple leave Beard together. Meanwhile, Angel, Mark, and Azrael search for their own way out of the town, but to no avail. Hardly any of the roads are accessible on foot, and those that are just lead to abandoned properties on the woodland outskirts of Beard. According to Azrael's journal entry, they then refocused their efforts towards finding a cure for whatever it was they had drunk. It's not much more successful. During Zach and Kellen's absence, Mark is the next group member whose symptoms start to get worse. His hair was almost entirely gone, and soon, rashes started to form over his skin before peeling away. Immediately, he and the other two start to fear that what happened to Caleb might be about to happen to Mark, too. Their only plan is for Mark to stay out in the snow if he starts catching fire in the same way, since, by this point, winter had reached Oregon. But instead of a reoccurrence of Caleb's condition, Mark's skin begins repeatedly forming an unusual bluish-green substance, warm to the touch. It accumulates every few hours, and Angel and Azrael help him scrape it off before it ultimately returns. Within days, it's returning faster, too fast for them to clear it. So much of it forms that it starts dripping off Mark. Then Angel points out it seems to be candle wax,
and the more of it, the hotter it gets. Shortly after, the substance burns out Mark's eyes. He's completely covered in scalding hot wax, with no way of removing it entirely. Eventually, he dies. Angel and Azrael can't move his body thanks to the wax, as more of it keeps forming, nor can they bury him yet thanks to a snowstorm outside. It's only a week later that Azrael thinks he sees the body moving. Mark is still alive. He's been lying in a pile of hot wax the entire time, his body still making more. Soon, he stops moving altogether. While all this is happening, Kellen and Zach are still trying to find help, but manage to wind up lost in the woods surrounding Beard. The numerous overlapping and confusing paths surrounding the town had meant one wrong turn sends both of them heading towards the woods, with only a few cans of food, a lighter, and a pocket knife between them. After a week, they pass a mountain that Zach assumes is the Diamond Peak volcano. Another week later, both he and Kellen are beginning to suffer their own severe symptoms from the liquid they consumed. Kellen is vomiting shards of metal and glass. Further metallic chunks were breaking through Kellen's skin as they grew within his body. At the same time, roots grow over Zach's eyes, preventing him from fully seeing just what is happening to his husband. They sit together in Kellen's dying moments, Zach feeling like he needs to be there for his partner, even though he can't see him or do anything to help him. A few hours after Kellen's breathing eventually stops, Zach walks through the woods until he hears the sound of cars, only to be found in Crater Lake National Park. Around the same time, Angel also dies. It takes him a whole week after his eyelids and fingernails fall out, followed by every layer of his skin. It would happen multiple times, thanks to the effects of the green liquid causing him to recover. Also, his skin could once again come off. At one point, Azrael, horrified by it all, sees his friend's face fall off. Still unable to find a way out of Beard, one of the remaining two survivors of the group also starts to change. Bumps form under Azrael's skin, eventually causing his hands to become swollen and preventing him from moving anything below his chest. Aware of his impending fate, he stashes the journal he's been writing in inside a backpack and leaves it for whoever finds them. The Foundation is able to recover the bodies of Azrael, Angel, Mark, and the buried remains of Caleb within Beard, but they decline to share this information with Zach. Sean's identity is confirmed to be that of Sean McDougal, and Foundation agents are sent to interrogate him. They aren't able to ascertain any valuable information from him, so instead amnesticize him. Anything saved on Sean's devices relating to the location of the town of Beard, the group he hired to scavenge there, and the $46,000 he'd made from the scavenged goods are all seized. SCP-7185 consists of two elements. The first is an unidentified machine that was uncovered by Zach Herman and his friends in an abandoned factory in the southern Cascadian mountain range of Oregon. Despite not having any power sources connected to it, SCP-7185 seemingly functions without the need for electricity. It is instead operated via a series of levers connected to the main body of the device. Two are black and one is rusted over. Should both of the black levers be switched downwards and the rusty lever pulled, the machine will produce the second element of this anomaly, designated by the Foundation as SCP-7185-1, hereby alternatively known as the body horror juice. The alcoholic liquid byproduct of activating SCP-7185 is green in color and has a semi-viscous consistency. If this liquid is drunk at any point by a human being, then this person will undergo major bodily changes that tend to span a period of at least several weeks. Anyone ingesting SCP-7185-1 will suffer numerous mutations and deformations of their body, although exactly how they are altered varies depending on the person drinking the juice. SCP-7185-1 also negates the effects of any depressants, opiates, or other stimulants taken after ingestion, meaning there is no way to nullify the pain of these intense physical changes. On July 21, 2014, Zach Herman died due to complications during surgery. The Foundation surgeons had been making extensive efforts to clear the roots growing throughout his body as a result of Herman ingesting SCP-7185. They had made enough of a difference to allow him to participate in interviews with researcher Canley. However, during these exchanges, Zach mentions that he can still feel everything that is happening to him during the procedures. Every incision, every removal, every stitch. The same day, the body of Zach's husband, Kellen Herman, is also recovered.
The pressure is on. This is the most important high-stakes event of the calendar year, the local bake sale. Every year, the suburbs become a bloodbath of snide comments and snipes at technique from snooty homeowners association members. It's a day that can make or break alliances on the street, and some years, it even breaks a few homes, too. This isn't just a community event, it's a war, a battle for supremacy, and the new arrival isn't about to let herself be shown up by the neighbor's peanut butter and chocolate cookies. There's just one problem: the assistant she chose. Making batches of cherry and dark chocolate cupcakes by the dozen might seem like it'd be a great bonding activity between mother and daughter, but not when the assistant is insisting on snarfing down the limited supply of maraschino cherries. That kind of behavior could throw the entire operation into chaos. And of course, the insolent child is insisting that she hasn't been eating vital ingredients and throws a tantrum when she's told to go and play outside with her brother. She wants to help, but by hellfire, she is hindering the baking process. So the new arrival decides to take drastic measures. She's going to lie to her daughter. No lie. She's going to outright trick her. Through the power of the local HOA group chat, sheer determination, and an extortionate bid on a second-hand marketplace site, the new arrival gets her hands on exactly what she needs to pull the wool over her assistant's eyes. Racing across town and picking up her purchase in a battered cardboard box, she brings it home, makes sure to wipe the dust off it, and give it a thorough clean. Then she can present it to the assistant, her very own safe-to-use and child-friendly oven. Sure, it's a toy, but her assistant is a 5-year-old. It even comes with its own recipe book. It'll keep her preoccupied with baking via a light bulb for hours. All the while, the new arrival can just tell her assistant that she's still actually helping. It'll free up some time to hand-pipe dark chocolate into leaf shapes to use as decorations to her beautiful finished cupcakes. There's just one tiny wrinkle to this otherwise foolproof plan. Now the treacherous assistant wants her creations to be brought to the bake sale too. Even after many arguments, she will not take no for an answer, and screams loud enough and long enough to finally make the new arrival relent. So on the big day, in the hopes of avoiding a reputation as a negligent parent, she makes sure to give her assistant a small section at the edge of her stall. She can offer the tiny brownies and various other treats that she's amateurishly made as free extras alongside the gorgeous, velvety cupcakes that the new arrival is selling. Though she hasn't had a chance to taste test what was spewed out of that little fake oven, they don't look all that bad. But her assistant has insisted that the jammy surprise stays covered with a party napkin. It's only when one of the HOA takes a bite of it and lets out a blood-curdling scream that the new arrival sees what the real surprise is. Since its acquisition by the Foundation, the object, now designated SCP-5620, has been securely contained at Site-17. The object was submitted for an initial observation report by the SCP Foundation's Ocular and Somatosensory Examination Department, who recorded several things of note in their subsequent report. According to OSED findings, SCP-5620 itself appeared to be non-anomalous in its construction, made primarily of metal and plastic. Inside, there were incandescent light bulbs that provided a heat source. From the outset, it appeared to resemble other similar child-friendly products that peaked in popularity between the late 90s and early 2000s. It was also noted that there were significant differences between SCP-5620 and commercially available working toy ovens. Many popular versions, such as those first manufactured and produced by Hasbro in 1963, came with pre-measured packets of cake mixture, with additional mixes sold separately. Adding water to the mixture, this would then be placed inside the toy oven, which would then produce a finished edible cake after a short time. However, researchers were quick to notice that SCP-5620 appeared to be somewhat more sophisticated, and instead of the pre-measured packets, this one came with a recipe book, designated by the Foundation as SCP-5620-1. According to SCP-5620-1, SCP-5620 was designed to be used with common ingredients and a simple set of measuring utensils also included with the object. These differences have led to SCP-5620 being referred to colloquially as the Easy Fake Oven. Closer testing was conducted, first attempting to follow the recipes as written in SCP-5620-1. It was quickly discovered, after researchers took part in an extensive and unsanctioned gustatory analysis period, that preparing any SCP-5620-1 recipes on their own does not yield any adverse results. Preparation remains innocuous until the recipes are prepared using SCP-5620, the use of which was quickly confined solely to pre-approved weekly testing slots. Researchers attempted several tester batches of the recipes within SCP-5620-1, though to their surprise, every time the end result came out looking identical to the pictures within the book, seemingly regardless of any mistakes that were made during preparation. However, the further anomalous properties of the baked goods produced by SCP-5620 were only discovered following testing that involved D-Class personnel. Various recipes were tested. One was referred to in the pages of SCP-5620-1 as fudging brownies. An oddity noted during the preparation of said brownies was that the recipe did not call for a leavening agent, a substance that releases gas when mixed with a liquid, heat, or some form of acid, causing the dough or batter to expand. Leavening agents are usually present in non-anomalous brownie recipes. A batch was prepared exactly as outlined by the directions in SCP-5620-1 and baked by the Easy Fake oven. They were presented to D-Class personnel member D-2837, who was initially pleased to discover the test they'd been submitted for involved eating what looked like fairly appetizing brownies. When interviewed after consumption and observed for potential side effects, it was quickly realized how vague D-2837 was being. Probing further, the line of questioning was changed to more personal questions, during which time D-2837 embellished several details about their life, including giving answers that their file and criminal record confirmed were blatantly untrue. It seemed that D-2837 was physically incapable of making a single truthful statement, with this effect only ceasing approximately an hour after they consumed the anomalous brownies. The following test was of a recipe referred to as twistiest pretzels, and while there appeared to be little of note about the preparation process, their effect was certainly noteworthy. Upon consumption, D-2837 began reportedly experiencing extreme discomfort, quickly followed by the rapid onset of a symptom that researchers have since referred to as anomalous involuntary autocontortion. D-2837's body began to twist and reshape itself in a variety of complex ways, all amidst their frantic screams of pain and pleas for the observing research team to help them. It appeared that during the course of experiencing this effect, D-2837 had no control over their body until half an hour passed and they returned to normal. Following this test, D-2837 requested a transfer to testing involving another anomaly. This was logged and submitted formally to Site-17's administration office, but was promptly rejected, and testing scheduled to continue the following week. This time, rainbow confetti cupcakes as SCP-5620-1 were to be prepared. Researchers were quick to point out once the unbaked mixture was ready to be placed inside SCP-5620 that it resembled a simple white cake mix, with no dye or sprinkles being added to it prior to baking. Sure enough, when the cakes were ready, they too also perfectly resembled the imagery inside the recipe book, just as in the other tests. Once more, D-2837 was presented with the fully baked recipe and instructed to eat, this time requiring significantly more encouragement. Shortly after finishing the cakes, they reported experiencing mild stomach pain, though this was initially believed to be simply the effect of consuming high amounts of sugar and other sweeteners present in the recipe. Just as researchers were about to call a premature conclusion to the experiment, D-2837 insisted that their pain was increasing. This escalated to the point where audible noises were heard coming from the D-Class personnel member's stomach, and they were rushed to the medical wing of Site-17 for immediate treatment. After a stomach pump did little to alleviate their symptoms, D-2837 was sent to the operating theater for emergency abdominal surgery. Upon making an incision into their intestines, Foundation surgeons witnessed a torrent of copious, small, colorful sprinkles come pouring out from D-2837's stomach. Within several hours, the excess sprinkles were cleared and destroyed as biochemical waste. Following this incident, D-2837 was promptly released from the research team's temporary care and administered with amnestics, before being reassigned to testing with another anomaly, redacted. In their place, D-8263 was requisitioned from D-Class personnel so testing of SCP-5620 could proceed. However, given the potential dangerous effects of consuming fully baked SCP-5620-1 recipes prepared using the object, the Ethics Committee submitted a request that testing be cancelled altogether. A compromise was made to limit the number of tests, now scheduling them monthly as opposed to weekly. The next recipe, interestingly, was for a confectionery item not normally cooked in any type of oven, including the anomaly toy variety. The recipe for brittlest peanut brittle did, however, suggest alternatives for those with peanut allergies.
After eating the resultant peanut brittle, D8263 reportedly felt no different from normal. However, shortly after, they reported feeling weak and were submitted for a full medical examination. Foundation doctors discovered that D8263 seemed to have spontaneously developed osteogenesis imperfecta, a genetic disorder that causes the bones to become brittle. Medical records indicated that D8263 did not have the condition prior to testing, nor did they have any previously unknown family history of osteogenesis imperfecta. Several months following consumption, the effects of the disorder persisted, causing researchers to suspect this may be permanent for D8263. During the following test, the recipe Jammy Surprise was prepared. This was differentiated from the previous recipes by not having any accompanying images, though the ingredients and methods outlined in SCP-5620-1 seemed to indicate it was meant to produce a single jam turnover. Included in the recipe was the following passage: "In hopes that this will yield satisfactory tribute for MWDOT. Upon completion of baking within SCP-5620, the recipe produced what resembled a severed human toe. Upon seeing this, D8263 fervently refused to eat it, despite numerous insistences made by the research team. Eventually, the testing was concluded, and the ethics committee once again pushed for an immediate cessation of all tests of the Easy Fake Oven. In another compromise, testing was reduced from every month to every quarter." The so-called Jammy Surprise itself was closely examined by researchers who discovered it was a genetic match to SCP-Redacted, causing it to be placed within containment. Testing was scheduled to determine if this item retained SCP-Redacted, its combustive properties. Ever since, there have been no other indicators of a link between SCP-5620 and Redacted, though some among the Foundation remain suspicious. This has been hard to verify since Redacted breached containment, and current whereabouts remain unknown. Given the nature of this containment breach, however, and the results of testing with the Jammy Surprise, the Foundation is assessing a potential connection between the manufacturer of the Easy Fake Oven and known Karcist sects. An investigation was launched into the precise origins of SCP-5620, headed by researcher Dr. Oliveris. The anomalous oven was re-examined, in particular the branding present on SCP-5620 and its accompanying recipe book. These indicated that the oven had been produced by a company known as Sugarcomb Confectionery, in association with MWDOT Incorporated. However, upon searching for more information on these companies, the Foundation was unable to discover much. There appeared to be no such entity as Sugarcomb Confectionery, and no incorporation had ever been registered under the initials of MWDOT. The investigation would, however, make something of a breakthrough on the 16th of April 2020, when Foundation web crawlers searching for other uses of the MWDOT initials came across a potential lead. There seemed to be some connection between the aforementioned MWDOT Inc. by several online users who were confirmed to be associated with an anomalous group of interest designated as GOI 5869, otherwise referred to as the Gamers Against Weed. These are a loosely organized network of dispossessed or marginalized individuals known to operate exclusively online. Consisting of approximately 40 members aged between 15 to 30, Gamers Against Weed were originally a splinter group of the anomalous art collective Are We Cool Yet? However, they appear to have abandoned the creation of anomalous art in favor of producing anomalies either designed for their own amusement or intended for satirical purposes. While several of these have posed serious threats to the SCP Foundation's secrecy, their threat to human life has remained minimal, though the Gamers Against Weed maintain an antagonistic attitude towards the Foundation, while not directly hostile. Given the small number of members, their online anonymity, and probably anomalous capabilities, the Foundation has had difficulty tracking down and neutralizing Gamers Against Weed. This was echoed when Dr. Oliveris' investigation reached out to some of their users and requested they come forward for questioning regarding SCP-5620, Sugarcomb Confectionery, and MWDOT Inc. However, shortly after their initial attempts to engage directly with Gamers Against Weed, one of the group's alleged founders made contact. Sometimes referred to as Person of Interest 6870, Jude Kriot was a former member of Are We Cool Yet, who went on to found Gamers Against Weed. His departure from the anomalous art collective was driven by the death of a close friend, killed during one of AWCY's exhibitions. Jude Kriot reached out to SCP Foundation personnel to schedule a video conference, which took place on April 18, 2020. During the video conference with Dr. Oliveris, Kriot refused to turn on his webcam before chastising the Foundation researcher for, as he put it, harassing members of Gamers Against Weed. He alluded to a prior agreement between the group and the Foundation that as long as they don't cause any active harm and avoid piercing the veil, that they would be left to their devices. Mr. Kriot assumed that the Foundation intended to break this truce, though Oliveris insisted that contacting members of Gamers Against Weed wasn't a breach of the terms of their agreement, especially given the suspected connection between members of their group and a poorly understood anomaly, along with an unresolved containment breach. Dr. Oliveris presented Kriot with images of SCP-5620, which the group's founder didn't appear to recognize, beyond assuming it was a commercially available easy-bake oven. However, when shown an image of the results of the Jammy Surprise recipe, there appeared to be some recognition, though Mr. Kriot was initially avoidant. When asked about the initials MWDOT, he responded with a question of his own, wanting to know what connection that had to the oven. In response, Dr. Oliveris disclosed the names of the companies believed to have manufactured SCP-5620. Through stifled laughter, Jude Kriot explained that the letters MWDOT stood for Mother Who Demands One's Toes. It was assumed that this was a memetic anomaly produced and disseminated by Gamers Against Weed, but Kriot insisted that his group had nothing to do with the name. They believed it had originated from the Serpent's Hand, another anomalous group of interest, and one responsible for numerous Foundation containment breaches. Though little intelligence had been uncovered about the Hand, the Foundation was aware that the Serpent's Hand were vocally critical of the Foundation's methodology. In particular, they opposed the containment and occasional destruction of humanoid and sentient anomalies, especially those that are fully human and do not pose any threat to the Foundation or the wider world. It remains unknown how the Serpent's Hand came to learn of anomalies or the Foundation themselves. According to Jude Kriot, the so-called Mother Who Demands One's Toes was some kind of anomalous entity associated with Sarkicism, the anomalous religious cult infamous for worshipping disease and flesh. In his notably vague account, Kriot mentioned that she possessed a Halkost, a Sarkic entity typically controlled by the Karsists, the high-ranking members of their order. He expressed confusion over why Sugarcomb Confectionery would collaborate with Karsists, but did reveal that both the Serpent's Hand and the Mechanites had been involved in opposing MWDOT. When Dr. Oliveris pressed him on his group's involvement, Kriot responded that Gamers Against Weed were simply privy to this information through reliable sources. However, they weren't actively involved with the situation. He alluded that it was these sources that informed him what the severed toe does, and that the other 9 do the same thing. When pressed for further information, Kriot mentioned that the Mechanites had been intending to keep some of these other toes away from Karsist sects that worship MWDOT. Most of them remained still in her possession. However, Kriot seemed to believe that some had been blown up, a belief that was called into question now that the Foundation was in possession of one that had been produced by SCP-5620. Suddenly interrupting Dr. Oliveris, Jude Kriot theorized that while the Karsists associated with MWDOT wanted to create more toes to please her, the easy fake oven could be used to summon the existing ones. He finished by laughing, proclaiming this was the most incredibly stupid thing he had ever heard. In response, Dr. Oliveris asked if Kriot knew what the Mother Who Demands One's Toes planned on doing with these offerings. The founder of Gamers Against Weed responded by saying that this was the wrong question. He didn't believe that MWDOT wanted to do anything with the toes. The proper question, according to him, was to ask what her followers planned to do with them. Immediately after, refusing to elaborate, Jude Kriot disconnected from their video conference and hasn't responded to any further attempts by the Foundation to contact him, nor have Gamers Against Weed. There have at present been no confirmed reports of activity involving the Serpent's Hand and Mechanites working to oppose the supposed Sarkic entity, MWDOT. However, the possibility of an engagement of this scale occurring without the Foundation's knowledge has been deemed as troubling to all members of personnel with relevant clearance. As of late March 2020, any further testing involving SCP-5620 has ceased, as instructed by an order to halt experimentation indefinitely, or until further notice is given by Site-17 administration staff. It is to remain in a standard storage locker. While researchers have long believed the Easy Fake Oven to be a unique, one-of-a-kind object, the discovery of Sugarcomb Confectionery has cast doubt on that assumption. The SCP Foundation now considers it possible that multiple instances of SCP-5620 may have been manufactured. The concern is that if these were acquired by Karsists, they could be used to summon more of the toes sought by followers of the Mother Who Demands One's Toes. Mobile Task Force Iota-6, codenamed the Cavity Fillers, have been assigned to monitor reports and are cleared to secure and contain any confirmed anomalous phenomena similar to SCP-5620. The cavity fillers have also been issued a directive from SCP Foundation higher-ups to investigate the activities of Sugarcomb Confectionery and, if possible, uncover the identity of the individuals affiliated with the company. At present, though, no employees or executives have been linked with Sugarcomb Confectionery. The actual existence of any business entity bearing this name cannot be verified.
What was that? The man and woman's hike through a gently rolling portion of the Rocky Mountains has just taken a turn for the dangerous. There's something there in the bush, the man tells her before stepping in front of her in a defensive pose. They watch the bush intently. There's a slight rustling of the leaves as if something is inside. The man picks up a stick from the ground and holds it in front of him, ready to strike whatever fearsome beast is lurking in the underbrush. The rustling stops, but the man doesn't move from his protective stance. "Do you think it's gone?" the woman asks. The man isn't sure. He leans in towards the bush, searching for signs of what might be hiding inside when... Ah! The man screams and falls backwards as the creature emerges from the bush. "Aw!" the woman cries. "It's a pika!" She kneels down to get a closer look at the adorable little creature. Pikas are native to this part of Colorado, and they resemble rabbits but with small, rounded ears. She watches it hop back off the trail before turning around to see her friend lying tangled in the branches of a tree. She can't help but laugh as she offers a hand to help pull him out of his predicament. "Are you all right?" she asks between fits of laughter. Yes, he's fine. The only thing hurt was his pride. He notices a small red spot on his arm and rubs it, but it doesn't seem to hurt at all. His attention is diverted by the woman, though, who is marveling at the tree he was just stuck in. Free of the branches, he can appreciate now that the tree really is incredible. It looks like a huge blue spruce, but the name is a complete misnomer, because this tree is a vibrant red color. "I've never seen anything like it," she says, and the man hasn't either. Neither knows what species it is, and, strangely, there don't seem to be any others like it. Maybe this is the result of an odd genetic defect that turns blue spruces red. After admiring the tree for a moment, the pair decides that they've hiked far enough and that they should probably head back to the car. She jokes that he's likely exhausted from his run-in with a wild animal, and he laughs, but clearly his ego has been bruised. The man stops his car in front of the woman's house, and she thanks him for taking her on the hike. As she starts to get out, though, he stops her. He asks if she wants to go do something else, like dinner? The woman thanks him for his offer, but she has to be up early the next day for work. Just a quick drink then? An hour? 30 minutes? The woman tries her best to let her friend down easy, explaining that she likes him as a friend and as only that. The man opens his mouth to respond, but she stops him. If he valued their friendship, then he wouldn't try to take advantage of it by using it as a backdoor to dating her. The man again looks like his pride has been shattered. He apologizes and admits that she is right. It's just that he has such a good time with her that he never wants it to end. She gives him a sad smile as she closes the car door, and he watches her enter her house before he finally drives away. It's 2 weeks later when the man's phone rings. It's his friend. She explains that she's been thinking a lot about what he said in the car and that she likes spending time with him too. Maybe there could be something more to their relationship. The man can't believe it. Is this really happening? The woman is serious. She'd like to take him up on that dinner offer, if he's still interested. Her treat. She wants to know what he is doing right. Ah! The man suddenly yelps in pain. Is he okay? What was that sound? Yes, I'm fine. It was nothing, the man tells her. It's just that now's not a good time. The woman doesn't understand. She thought he'd want to see her. She explains that she's leaving town for a work trip the next day and will be gone for a couple of weeks. She was hoping she could see him before she left, but the man cries out in pain again. He tells her that he hasn't been feeling well all day, but that he'll be all right. Okay, well, get well soon. I'll call you when I get back. They exchange goodbyes, and the man hangs up the phone. The man looks terrible. His skin is pale, and his face looks hollow and gaunt. He looks down at his arm and sees that the veins themselves appear to be moving, pulsing, and vibrating. He screams again in agony and falls to the floor, clutching his arm. After writhing on the floor, he manages to summon the strength to reach for the phone. His hand searches on the table above him, and eventually he's able to knock it onto the floor. He grabs the phone and starts to dial 911. Before he can press 1 again, another wave of intense searing pain consumes him. Several weeks later, the woman is standing outside the man's house. Mail and newspapers are piled up on his front porch, as if no one has been in or out in some time. She knocks on the door, but there's no response. "Hello?" she calls out.
but still nothing. She's very worried. She's tried calling him several times, but he never answered or returned her messages. She tries the doorknob, and to her surprise, the front door swings open. She steps inside and the room is dark. She's also immediately hit by a strong aroma of pine? She searches on the wall and finds the switch. She turns on the lights and can't believe what she sees standing in front of her. There in the middle of the room is a massive spruce tree, its upper branches pressing against the ceiling. She reaches out and touches the tree's vivid red branches. They feel sticky and wet. She pulls her hand away and looks down to see that it's covered in a red substance. That's when she notices something else. Stuck among the trunk at the base of the tree is the half-consumed body of her friend. Unfortunately, this pair would never have the opportunity to see their feelings take root and grow, because unbeknownst to them, this beautiful tree is actually a very deadly anomaly, known to the SCP Foundation as SCP-867, but which is perhaps better known by its very appropriate nickname, Blood Spruce. SCP-867 is, or at least appears to be, quite similar to the species of tree Pisceae pungens, better known as the blue spruce. Of course, there are a number of dramatic differences between 867 and its non-anomalous counterpart. Visually, and most obvious, is the coloration. While blue spruces, as the name implies, are typically a blue-green color, SCP-867 is a deep, vibrant red. There's another major visual difference too, with the blood spruce lacking any sort of seed cones that you would normally expect to find. With no pine cones to protect and spread seeds, you'd be right to ask how SCP-867 goes about reproducing. The answer to that question is what makes this beautiful tree such a dangerous anomaly. The secret to how SCP-867 reproduces is found in its leaves. While they look like pine needles, SCP-867's leaves are, in fact, needles. Their structure is very similar to that of hypodermic needles, and each one contains a single long, thin seed, which sits above a small gas pocket at the base. When a living creature touches the leaves, the tree immediately reacts. It triggers the gas pocket in the base of the leaf to release, which injects the seed into the skin of whatever touched it. The process is quite similar to that found in auto-injectors, like those used to quickly treat allergic reactions. The seed itself is extremely small and is coated in a liquid that has both anesthetic and coagulant properties, which makes the process virtually undetectable. Once implanted in the skin, these seeds can lay dormant for up to 2 weeks before they begin the germination process, and the true horror of SCP-867 is revealed. Once the seeds begin to sprout and grow, they will not seek to penetrate through the skin like a plant rising out of the soil. Instead, the strange plant will grow within its host's body, spreading throughout the circulatory system. This process is extremely painful for the host. The plant's tendrils wind through their veins and capillary system, stretching and pressing against them as the blood spruce grows within them. Eventually, the ever-increasing size of the plant's tendrils becomes too much, and the veins will begin to rupture. This leads to severe internal bleeding, and soon after, the death of the host. The entire process is quite quick, with it only taking 24 hours from when the seeds first sprout to the host dying. But that single day will feel like an eternity to the afflicted individual as they feel the plant rapidly growing inside of their body. But even though the host has expired, this parasitoid tree is far from finished with them, or at least their body. Soon after death, a new instance of the blood spruce will burst from the body. The red tree is quite small at first, but it will continue to quickly grow, just as it did within its host's body, and can reach maturity in just 30 days. And unlike most other plants, SCP-867 is able to grow regardless of light or soil conditions, because it does not produce food via photosynthesis. No, this plant is carnivorous. As it grows, the 867 will slowly consume its host's body until nothing remains except the blood-red tree. Instances of SCP-867 were first identified in Colorado during the 1990s, following reports of numerous disappearances of hikers and park rangers. The SCP Foundation dispatched a team to the area to investigate, and they soon discovered numerous instances of the previously unidentified tree. Several still young specimens were acquired, though unfortunately, this led to the deaths of several agents who were not yet aware of just how dangerous the red spruces could be. Once their threat level was properly assessed, several specimens were flagged for containment and research purposes, while all of the other identified instances still in the wild were destroyed. The remaining instances of SCP-867 were classified as Euclid and are now securely kept at a Foundation biocontainment site. Direct human contact with the plants is normally not allowed, and remote rovers are used for the majority of tests and upkeep. If for any reason it is necessary for a human to enter 867's containment cell, they are to wear full hazmat suits with a Kevlar underlayer, and upon exiting the cell, must undergo a full herbicidal treatment and inspection. Should any possible puncture marks be discovered, they will be forced to quarantine for no less than 15 days. Ah, nature. It's so beautiful, peaceful, and calming, yet seems determined to try and kill us in any number of ways. If you're out hiking or camping in the woods, try to remember this extremely famous adage which I may or may not have just made up. It goes, leaves of 3, let them be. Needles of red, well, you're probably already dead.
The night had teeth, cold, biting teeth. The kind that gnawed into your bones and made you forget the world is anything but black and white. The shelter was a wreck, as usual. Damp wood and rotting walls that smelled of decay and forgotten dreams. He was used to it. The man, mid-30s, rough around the edges, hair unkempt like a wolf on a bad day, had earned his spot in the pecking order of the homeless. He was a loner, a shadow in a place full of them, drifting between bodies and bottles. There was no pretense left. He wasn't here for company, wasn't here for salvation, just warmth. All he wanted was to forget about the crushing loneliness that accompanied him every day. Tonight, like most nights, the fire crackled in the corner, the dim orange glow casting long shadows that danced against the walls. The others gathered around it, huddling for warmth, sharing cigarettes or stories of better times. That was when she showed up. She was younger, mid-30s at the oldest, but there was a weariness in her eyes that suggested she had lived through things that had aged her far too quickly. She stumbled in from the darkness, making her way toward him, but he didn't notice her at first. He didn't really care. He didn't care much for anyone.
Got a light?
She asked, her voice rough and scratchy. He didn't answer, just tossed her his lighter. She caught it mid-air with a fluid motion, like it was nothing. She lit a cigarette, inhaled deeply, and passed it to him without a word. For a moment, neither of them said anything. The fire crackled and the wind howled outside. They both stared into the flames, each lost in their own thoughts, the silence thick between them. Then, she leaned in. He wasn't sure what happened. One second, she was beside him. The next, she was right there, her lips on his. A kiss. It was quick, almost too quick to register at first. But then, it wasn't just a kiss. It was a surge of heat, an electric jolt that hit him straight in the chest. It wasn't like any kiss he'd ever had before. It wasn't gentle or loving or fleeting. It was urgent, like she needed something from him. Or maybe he needed something from her. His mouth tingled, his body stiffening, every nerve alive, and yet wrong. There was a push, a pressure, like something was moving through him, something he couldn't place, something that didn't belong. A tightness deep in his throat, as if something was shifting inside him, pulling at him. And then, just as quickly as it had begun, it was over. She pulled away, leaving him breathless, his head spinning. She didn't say anything. She just stared at him for a second, her eyes unreadable, before turning and walking off into the darkness. The air still smelled of her, of smoke, of sweat, and something deeper. He tried to shake it off, chalk it up to the cold, to the usual weirdness of his existence. Just another transient connection, another flicker of something that would fade like everything else in his life. But that was the problem. It didn't fade. The next morning, he woke up feeling strange. His head ached like a freight train had passed through it. He tried to push himself up, but the world spun, dizzying and disorienting. His mouth felt dry, like he hadn't had a drink in days. But there was something more to it, something odd. The taste was metallic, bitter, and there was a lingering sensation at the back of his throat, like something had been there. He got up and staggered out of the shelter, squinting against the morning light. He could barely remember the night before. The fire, the people, her. He pushed it all aside. Just a bad dream, he told himself. As the day passed, something started to shift. His hands itched, his fingers twitching every time someone walked by. He needed something. Just a touch. He didn't care who, someone, anyone. The first time it happened, he touched a stranger's arm as they passed by, and his stomach twisted with a sudden need. Not just physical warmth, not just the heat of skin, something else. He didn't understand it, but the feeling clawed at him, relentless. He wanted more of that connection, more of whatever had been in that kiss. It was stupid. He'd never cared about these things before. Physical touch had always been something to avoid, something that made him feel trapped. But now he couldn't shake the craving. And then the disorientation hit. His body started acting up. He couldn't keep his balance. He'd lose track of what he was doing, drifting off, caught in the moment, completely unaware of where he was or how he got there. Sometimes he'd stare at a half-eaten sandwich, unable to remember how it had gotten into his hands. The confusion was getting worse. His body felt strange, like he wasn't entirely inside it anymore, like he was being pulled in different directions. He couldn't explain it, but he knew it wasn't just a hangover. Something had changed inside him. Something had shifted. And all he could think of was her, the woman with the strange eyes, the kiss that had felt so wrong yet so familiar. He couldn't explain it, but every time he thought about it, that strange pull came back, the longing. He needed to find her. He had to understand what had happened. The days bled together. He wandered through the city, searching for her. He needed her. She was different. She was meant for him. He knew it. There was no mistaking it. He started asking around, casually at first, as if it didn't matter. But it did.
You seen a woman? Tall, kinda wild-looking, dark hair?
People either ignored him or shrugged, offering vague answers that didn't get him anywhere. One night, a voice from behind him snapped him from his thoughts.
Looking for someone?
He turned sharply. A man, grizzled, unshaven, eyes distant, eyed him with a curious, almost amused gaze.
Yeah, have you seen her? She was here.
He gestured vaguely, as if that would somehow make it clear. The man squinted at him, then shook his head slowly.
Don't think I know her. Ain't nobody special around here. Best keep moving, brother.
The words stung more than he'd care to admit, but he couldn't stop. He had to find her. Days passed in a haze of frustration, desperation curling around him like smoke. He could feel his mind slipping, the grip on his own thoughts growing weaker. The memories, they weren't his. Not all of them. A flash of a man in a suit looking down at him with pity. A woman laughing softly, brushing her fingers across his hand. Was that real? No, it couldn't be. Could it? Then came the voices, whispers at first, like wind passing through cracks. He'd catch fragments of conversations that weren't his, feelings that didn't belong to him. The strange moments flickered in and out like dreams, too fleeting to hold on to. But he knew them. He was sure of it. They were his. He was becoming someone else, and he couldn't stop it. Finally, one night, after another endless search through the alleys and dark corners of the city, he saw her. It was like the universe had handed her to him, a gift wrapped in shadows. She stood outside a shelter, smoking a cigarette, her back turned to him. For a moment, his heart skipped, his breath caught in his chest. She was real. She was here. He stepped forward, his body already moving before his mind could catch up.
Hey,
he called out, voice cracking with urgency. She turned, her eyes meeting his for a moment. There was nothing in them, no recognition, no spark, just indifference.
do I know you?
She asked flatly, her voice detached. She took another drag of her cigarette, as if the question was no more important than the ash falling from the end of it.
I'm the guy, the one from the fire,
he stammered, stepping closer. He couldn't get the words out fast enough.
You remember?
Her face didn't change. She exhaled the smoke, letting it curl into the cold air between them.
No, I don't.
His stomach dropped. He took another step forward, trying to close the distance between them.
But you have to. You kissed me.
She stepped back, her face hardening.
I don't know you. Stay away from me.
The coldness in her voice stung, sharper than the night air. He blinked, trying to process what she'd said. The words didn't make sense. They couldn't make sense. She took one last look at him, eyes briefly flicking to the ground before she turned and walked back into the shelter without another word. He stood there, frozen. His mind raced, pulse pounding in his ears. It wasn't real. This wasn't right. She was supposed to be the one. But her rejection echoed in his head, louder than the whispers that still lingered in the back of his mind. He couldn't make sense of it. He was alone again. He wandered the streets, lost and confused. He had no sense of time anymore, no sense of direction. The world spun around him. People moved in and out of his vision, but all he could think of was her. The craving wouldn't stop. His mind had unraveled, replaced by a single, consuming need for touch, for connection, for something to fill the hollow inside him. He started approaching people on the street, random strangers, hoping to recapture that lost sensation. The briefest glance, the lightest brush of contact, even a fleeting moment. It was never enough. It would never be enough. None of them were her. But then, the little things started to creep in. A drop of blood on his shirt, a cough that lingered longer than it should, an ache in his chest that didn't feel quite right. He didn't think much of it. It wasn't even the worst thing that had happened to him. He was used to discomfort, but then it started getting harder to ignore. His nose never stopped bleeding, just a constant trickle, like a faucet that couldn't be turned off. He wiped it away, again and again, but it kept coming back. The pain in his head was the worst part. It felt like his brain was being pulled in two different directions. The strain was enough to make him dizzy, to make him feel like he was losing his grip on everything. The headaches came and went, but the dizziness stayed. His body grew weak, his legs unsteady beneath him. He couldn't think straight anymore, couldn't remember the last time he'd felt right. His memory was falling apart, just like the rest of him. Faces blurred, becoming strangers, even though they weren't. He'd look at a person, and for a split second, he'd think he was looking at someone else entirely, someone from another life, another place. His mind was slipping, falling faster into madness. The voices were getting louder, mixing with his own thoughts, urging him on, pushing him further, telling him to find her. It was incessant. It was all he heard. His grip on reality was nearly gone. His body ached, his memory shattered, and all he could think of was her. His body was failing him now, and he knew it. The dizziness was worse, his legs weak and trembling under the weight of whatever was crawling beneath his skin. The blood, the constant nosebleeds. But it didn't matter. The city outside didn't matter anymore. Only she mattered, and she had rejected him. There was only one thing he could do now. He gave up. The woman was gone, and so was his mind. He retreated into an abandoned building. It was falling apart, just like everything else in his life. He found a small, dark room in the back of the building, a cramped, suffocating space. But it wasn't enough. The room felt too open, too exposed. He searched the room until he found an even smaller crawl space, hidden behind a pile of debris. It was tight, the walls pressed in on him from all sides, the air stale and suffocating. But it was perfect. Here, he could be alone with his thoughts. Here, he could escape everything, even if just for a little while. It became his sanctuary, his final refuge. The pain in his head was unbearable now. It was as if his brain was being torn apart, like it was shifting inside his skull, pulling in every direction. He bled more than ever, leaving trails of crimson along the walls. His body was failing. His bones felt fragile, his muscles weak. Each breath was harder to take. He could feel it now. He was dying. This thing inside him was winning. It had taken everything. His thoughts, his body, his very identity. His whole life he had wanted to be with someone, to be loved. Eventually, it all became too much. He curled up in the tight crawl space and closed his eyes. He died there, in the dark, alone. The parasite left with him, taking his life and his obsession, his memory of her. The building was just as forgotten as the man who had died inside it. The Foundation team arrived after a quiet tip-off, another case of strange disappearances in the area. It wasn't uncommon for these to lead to a dead end, but this place felt different. There was something off in the air. They entered the crumbling structure with methodical precision, boots crunching across shattered tile, footsteps echoing through the hollow silence. Decay clung to every wall. The stench of mold, of time left unchecked, filled the air. But that's not what caught their attention. It was the body. The body was transported to Site 77 for further examination. After conducting a post-mortem autopsy, the Foundation confirmed their suspicions. This was no ordinary case. This was SCP-1204, a parasite far more dangerous than anyone could have imagined. Classified as Euclid, this anomaly was now a matter of ongoing study, but it came with a chilling understanding. It wasn't just the body it infected, it consumed the mind too. SCP-1204 is, in its most basic form, a human host for a parasitic being. Sounds pretty simple, right? Here's where it gets fun. This parasite is semi-corporeal, meaning it's there but not really, more of an unseen, invisible presence that you can only detect through weird electrical pulses when it makes contact with the host. So how does it spread? It's not through your typical cut, scratch, or bite stuff. No, the parasite transfers when two people share extended oral contact. Think intense, drawn-out kissing, where a mass of pharyngeal tissue from the infected person actually stretches into the mouth of the other, and then bam, both are now walking parasites. Most known victims of SCP-1204 have been transient or homeless individuals. Whether their conditions made them more vulnerable to the infection, or if the parasite simply preys on the most neglected, is still up for debate. These people weren't in the best of health to begin with, and the parasite didn't exactly do them any favors. It has a special way of ruining things. Once infected, the change isn't immediate, but it doesn't take long for the host to feel something. That something turns into an overwhelming need to be in constant physical contact with others. It's not about just warming up by the fire or catching some friendly banter. It's a deep, gnawing hunger for touch, for connection, and it can't be quenched. But there's more. The infected person's obsession starts to center on one particular person, usually someone they think is their romantic partner. It's not even a healthy kind of love. It's all-consuming, parasitic, and completely off the rails. The infected person will do whatever it takes to get close to that one person, to feel them, to be them. Everything else becomes secondary, and sometimes not even relevant. Now let's talk about the physical symptoms. Hosts bleed internally, their bodies start to shut down, and their minds? Memory loss kicks in, and it's not the oops I forgot where I put my keys kind of deal. No, it's full-on disintegration. They forget entire days, sometimes they forget faces, people they've known their entire lives, and their memories, the ones that are left, fragments, bits and pieces that don't belong to them, strangers' memories, memories of past hosts, or just random, unexplainable flashes. Physically, things get worse. The body deteriorates. The brain's tissue begins to degrade, especially the hippocampus. Oh, and did I mention they experience constant internal bleeding? As the body can't keep up anymore, the infected host stops looking for new victims. They go off to hide, typically in a small, isolated place like a crawlspace or some other tight, suffocating corner of the world. And that's where they die, alone, decayed, and forgotten. It's not pretty. And that's the end.